Well, welcome to Sikorski's Think Abouts on the Daily Blue. I'm your host, Laura Sikorski. Our show appeals to all levels of management and to all industries. Our vision is for you to think about, that's the name of the show, about how your organization manages customer expectations. Our goal is to have guests who are going to share with us their expertise and help you manage and develop perhaps your call center staff, your retail staff, your billing department, or any customer that interacts or interfaces with your company. And today our guest is a good friend. Her name is, I guess all my shows are good friends, aren't they? Is Randi Busse. Randi is president and founder of Workforce Development Group, and she has over 25 years of helping employees understand customer service and what it means to be a good customer service person. Her training programs, I love this, is to think like an owner, not a renter. So we're a little different in that I like to think like a customer, but I understand in your trainings that you've done why those words are so important. And she gets rave reviews from her clients, and I think that is always a great thing. She's co-author, by the way, of the book Turning Rants Into Raves, and it's a great book for all levels of management, and it's great, I call it tidbits, but great stories. Some personal that you do, some that, we've all shared at one point or another with Randi. So with that, she's also a dynamic speaker, and she likes to use humor in her sessions. And I've heard Randi speak, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura. Pleasure to be here. And yes, you have a lot of good friends.
Well, our training today is, Randi has a lot of other things in her bucket that she does, but she is an excellent trainer. And I thought it would be great for our audience today to understand the importance of training. Some people do OJT, that's that on-the-job training. And yeah, it works in some corporations, but in most, it just doesn't do the mark. So let's go with this slide. Employee training is, what does it mean to you, Randi?
Well, employee training often doesn't make it onto a company's budget. I think that it needs to go on there just like you would have an attorney, you would have a paper supplier, you would have a copy machine, company that's part of your budget. Training needs to be on your budget because we need to make an investment in our employees. And so, in my opinion, employee training is an investment. A lot of companies look at it as an expense, but really what you're doing is you're making an investment in your employees and in your company.
Totally agree, 100. And the fact that it's a waste of time. I know there are some people that I've heard, managers and say, well, we don't really need to train. They can just sit side by side this person and they'll be right on the phones in a day or two.
Right.
And my heart sinks. It just upsetting to me, and I know it's definitely upsetting for yourself.
Especially if they're putting them next to somebody who maybe doesn't have the best customer service skills to begin with, and so then you have that person teaching the new person, and they're going to ultimately pick up those negative behaviors.
Absolutely, totally agree. So why do you want to train your employees?
Well, employees are looking to grow when they join a company, and they want to be part of something bigger. And so when you start developing them and investing time and energy, they're going to feel like they matter even more to the organization. So it certainly helps with staff retention. We expect that people come to the table with certain skills. Maybe they've had 5 years experience working in a call center, but that doesn't mean that they've been doing the job well just because they've been working there for 5 years. And so it's a matter of enhancing their skills and, every day getting just a little bit better than you were before. It also motivates the staff and really increases morale because they feel like, wow, you know what, the company does care about me and they want me to be better. So, they're taking me off the phones, they're investing money usually for an outside trainer to come in and spend some time. So it really helps with morale to see that the company isn't just about what's the bottom line, but it's how do we make our staff better. And then the last thing, differentiation from your competition. when you think about all the companies that aren't doing training for their staff, just by the very fact that you are, you're going to be head and shoulders above the competition.
Totally agree. And thanks, by the way, for that think about mention that you just kind of slid in under morale and staff. Appreciate that. Why are your employees engaged? What is the cost if they're not? And this is a very telling slide for me, because a lot of people think, oh, well, I have a training program and my staff understands what they're supposed to do, but they're really not there. You know, their mind is somewhere else. They're not focused on their job functions. So I think I really want to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, well, you know, not skipping ahead to the last bullet there, but, you know, disengaged employees are actually costing American employers $350 billion a year in lost revenue, in customer attrition, in employee attrition. And so there was just a study that was done by the Gallup organization, and they said that 70% of employees are disengaged in some way, shape, or form. And so that means for every 10 employees that you have, 7 of them are there in body, but they may not be there in mind.
Their mind is elsewhere. They're busy. Oh, what are we going to do tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
Or what am I going to make for dinner? I have to stop at the food store. Let me start making a list.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they're supposed to be taking a phone call or answering an email or answering a chat.
Exactly. And so what you bring up is what I call not being present. And that's one of the things that we talk about in training, is how to remain present in the conversation that you're having with your customer. Because if I start thinking about, oh, I have to pick my kid up from daycare, oh, I have to get milk on the way home, or oh, that customer that I just spoke with 10 minutes ago really annoyed me, I'm not going to be giving my full undivided attention to you, the customer that I have on the phone right now. So, when you're not engaged, you're not going to be present. So I think that's a bigger problem than employers realize, how disengaged their employees are.
Totally agree, because again, both of us being trainers, I find that a lot of people don't focus when they're getting ready to say, hello, this is ABC Company, I'm Laura, how may I help you? They're just not there. And then the customer starts talking and they're not even listening. And then the next thing you know, their script is telling them, you ask the customer this question, and the customer then says, I just told you that. And so engagement is extremely important.
Absolutely. When your employees are not engaged, productivity is going to suffer, whether it's calls answered, abandon rate, those types of metrics. But more importantly, in my opinion, is the interaction that the customer is going to have with your employee, with your brand ambassador, if you will, is going to suffer, because I'm not giving you my full undivided attention. I'm asking you questions that you already told me the answer to, and asking you to repeat yourself. And so my loyalty to your company is probably going to wane as a result of your disinterest in whatever it is that I'm calling about.
And every time you call and you get somebody like that, then you, the customer, are saying, well, you know what? I'm going to go elsewhere because I just had it. I can't. They don't know who I am. I've been with this company 5, 10, 15 years, and they still are asking me the same questions over and over, and they don't listen to what I'm saying.
Yep, it's a problem.
It is a problem. Turnover is something that's very, very costly, obviously, in the call center industry. You're saying in here that 40% of employees who receive a poor job training leave their positions within the first year. I've done some research, and it costs $3,000 to train a new hire. And so if you could just retain your employees, the better off your company is. Yeah. And so what is your feel, the survey that you did that was taken?
Well, I think that the cost of $3,000 to train an employee is actually one part of the equation, because when you think of the onboarding of a new employee, if you make a wrong hire, what that's going to do to the culture of your organization. And so the cost of a bad hire, not training, not setting your employees up for success, is really could be terribly detrimental and costly to your organization. And so, you know, you talk about on-the-job training, and I think that your onboarding needs to be a little bit more than go sit with Mary. She's been doing the job for 15 years.
Right.
Because
Who
Mary
really doesn't want to get up in the morning and go to work.
Right, because Mary's disengaged herself, and so go sit with Mary and she'll tell you how bad it is to work here.
Right.
So it needs to be a little more formal as far as
Right,
getting a new
right.
employee on board.
Yeah, I know this whole onboarding, and a lot of times people forget in their onboarding process to really talk about the vision of the company and the purpose of the company so that the employee understands why they need to be a good contributor to the organization.
You know, just I want to make a comment about that. You know, a lot of companies have vision statements or mission statements or their values that they post on the wall or they put on their website, and those are words that your customers are reading. And so if you're not living those words, you're not in sync with what you said it was going to be. And so if your employees don't know what those words mean and how they need to live them every day, take them off the wall, because they are then just words on the wall.
Words on the wall. And sometimes, you know, one of the things, I was reading an article recently, and the woman was, and I think her last name was Allen, and she was recommending that take each word that's in the vision statement and talk about it at a staff meeting. And say, what does this mean to you? What does it mean to the company, et cetera? And I thought, what a great idea. Bring it, make it active, make it mobile, so that the employees understand.
We actually do that in our workshops. We look at their words and we break up into groups, and we have a group of employees talk about what does it mean to be friendly, what does it mean to go above and beyond. And so it really gets them involved in the process, and it becomes more than just words on the wall.
And then they become extremely motivated, I think, you know, especially when you do a workshop and you're asking them for their opinions about the word and what it means to them. I mean, I think that's great. That really is. Okay, here's Rant and Rave.
That's the girls.
Yeah, these are the girls. So tell us a little bit about Rant and Rave.
Well, the good news...
Do you want me to move? You just let me know if you know.
Yeah, you can. I'll tell you a little bit about Rant and Rave are actually employees that work in every company. And Rant and Rave are actually females only for illustrative purposes. So I don't want you men to be thinking anything other than, oh, well, those are the women that work for our company. No. These are men and women. And Rant and Rave represent the two different types of employees that you have working in your organization. So let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit about Rant. You know, you could just look at her body language and tell she's not the happiest of campers.
No, and you know, especially when they do the cross
closed
arms.
body language. You know, she may be dressed kind of nice, but you know, her body language, she's not smiling. And this is what she's thinking: I'm off to work to provide excellent service and pretend to give a darn. LOL. Haha, except that's not very funny when it's my company that you're working for and my customers that you're talking to.
And you're costing me millions of dollars just by your attitude.
Exactly.
You know?
And so Rant is the employee who's just there for a paycheck, doesn't really care whether the customer becomes a customer or stays a customer, because at the end of the day, she's getting her same, you know, $12 an hour, whatever her paycheck is. So not only is she hurting the customers that she's speaking with, but she also could be poisoning the environment and the culture of the organization, because when she deals with coworkers, she's that same unhappy person. Now, thank goodness there's other types of employees that work for you. And but before we get there, I guess I need to give you an example of how Rant is in the workplace. And so this customer called. She wanted to disconnect her father's phone because he passed away. And the first words out of Rant's mouth were, "What's the phone number?" or "What's the account number?"
No empathy whatsoever.
You didn't have you didn't have to know me or know my father, but the first thing that you say is, "What's the phone number?" How about, "I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. I'll be happy to take care of this for you." And so Rant doesn't even hear what the customer says, because she's just, you know, just going along, call after call after call, and not being present and really listening to the customer and responding appropriately. So Rant employees work in your company, and we can't have it. So we want the other kind of employee. So now let's take a look. at Rave. Look at Rave, friendly, smiling, open body
Kind of
language.
like us. We're just so friendly. And
here we are. I try to put myself in their place and identify how I would like to be treated in that situation. So Rave is thinking and acting like an owner of the business. She cares, she's invested. She's one of that 30% of employees that are engaged and want to do the right thing. And so when she takes care of customers, let's see what that looks like. So, you know, Rave works in the doctor's office, and she works in the call center, and she works in a retail store. But when she works in the doctor's office, she greets patients by name. She asks how they're doing. She tells the customer that she cares about them. Not only does she show it in her actions, but she's also demonstrating it in the way that she's treating the patients. And this patient keeps coming back because of the relationship that he has with the employee.
With the employee, and that is so important. I find I just changed doctors because I got tired of press 1, press 2, leaving messages, never getting a call back, and I'm like, you know what? Time for another doctor.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have so many choices as to who to do business with, whether it's a doctor, a bank, an insurance company, that why stay a customer when you don't feel like you're being treated like you matter to the company?
Right, when I don't feel appreciated. You know, it's really quite, it's amazing that people just don't get it. Let's talk about making smart decisions.
Well, I think sometimes companies are fast to hire, right? We're very quick to hire. Fill the seat.
Fill the seat.
Get a body in the seat. If they're breathing, they're hired. And yet we're very slow to fire. And I think we need to do it the other way around. I think we need to take our time when we're hiring people and hire for attitude, because I don't know that you could really train empathy. And I know you just spoke about empathy, you know, in a show a couple of weeks ago. You need to hire somebody that has that owner mindset, that cares, that's interested, that is eager to serve and take care of other people. I can train you on the script. I can train you on our technology. I can train you on the types of services or products that we offer, but I can't train you how to be nice and how to care. So I'm all about hiring for attitude and then training for the skill. And then we've got to hold our employees accountable.
Yeah, a lot of times people, you know, they just kind of, even though you have all the quality assurance and the performance metrics and so forth, you just sometimes are afraid to let those bad eggs go. And I don't know if it's because they're concerned about lawsuits or whatever it may be, but an employee is there to do a job. And as long as they know what their job description is, they should be held accountable. And hey, that just cost us, you know, a $10,000 order just because you weren't kind to the customer and you didn't understand what they wanted.
Right, and it's not about firing our employees. It's getting them to think and act like owners, getting them more engaged, ensuring that they have the skills, because sometimes they don't have the skills, and that's where the training and the reinforcement coaching is so important, because it's up to us as leaders of the business to ensure that we're setting our employees up for success. Do they have the tools that they need? It's not enough that you get me a great headset and my computer's really fast.
And I have 2 screens and all that stuff. You know, teach me how to react and understand, you know, our customers. This slide is really to talk about training is a myriad of things, and it involves, you could have a large classroom setting, you could have a lab where you know, listen and role play and so forth. You know, a lot of companies don't even have a reference library, and it may be just a book about the company, a book about the industry. You know, for example, one of my clients is a utility, and they truly took the staff out on the trucks and explained what's on top of those wires. And when the pole goes down, that's why it takes so long, you know, for things to happen and for it to get back up and running. And training involves the work floor, because many times people forget that new employees in a call center particularly have to nest. They have to listen, they have to learn, they have to have a mom or a dad watching how they're taking the calls, and good job, or next time do this, it might be a little easier for you. You have to have a curriculum. A person, when they come in, they have to understand, right, what it is that they're going to do. You know, Mondays I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this, and I mean, I remember my first day on one job, nobody knew I was coming, so I felt really bad. You know, and you know me, I mean, I really like to always know that I'm coming into place. But you have manuals, you have monitoring, recording, coaching, performance evaluations, cross-training, follow-up training. There's all this stuff in training. It's just not saying, welcome, and now we're going to train you.
Yeah, it's not just sit next to Mary and she'll tell you everything you need to know, right?
Yeah, right. But this slide, I think, is extremely important for folks to remember. And it was from James Stice at the University of Texas. And people only remember 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50 of what they hear and see, 70 of say or write, and 90% of what they say when they do an activity. And I think this is extremely important for everyone to remember. Training has to be dynamic, and it has to be creative, and it has to relate.
And it has to be interactive, and that's why in our training programs we're doing a lot of exercises, and it's not us standing up at the front of the room. It's an experience that is a shared experience, so that it's not always one-on-one training, it's a group. And when you're all experiencing the same types of activities and role plays and questions, it's cementing in you what these skills are. How do I demonstrate empathy? You know, we talk about improving customer service, and if you said, hey, we have to do a better job of taking care of our customers, I don't even know what that means. And so it might mean one thing to you and one thing to her, and so we've got to demonstrate it, and we're all about painting pictures. What is a great customer service experience? What does it look like? And what we do is we ask our employees, take off your ABC company hat. You're just Laura, a person who goes out to dinner on the weekend, who goes shopping at Macy's, who has the plumber come to her house. What do you like when you're a customer? And when you get people emotionally connected to how they feel when they're a customer, and then the flip side of what is it like when you have a bad experience? I just walked out of a restaurant last night, as a matter of fact, because after I got seated, we sat for 10 minutes. Nobody came over to bring us water, to give us menus, to ask about a drink order, nothing. We just got up and left. And went to another restaurant, and I'll probably never go back to that restaurant because of the bad taste that was put in my mouth. And so when you can get employees emotionally connected to how they feel when they have a great experience and how they feel when they have a bad experience, that's going to show them what it is that we want them to demonstrate. Because, you know, here's a little truth for you. Your customers want the very same thing that you want when you're a customer. But we come into work and we put on our call center hat, we put on our customer service rep hat, and we forget that these human beings are just looking for the same thing that we are.
And it ties back. Think like a customer, because you have to understand what it is that they are going through when they contact you.
Absolutely.
So let's do our think abouts. We're almost towards the end of our show,
okay,
believe
great.
it or not. It's just like, I can't believe the time goes so quickly. Talk about these 2 points. I think they're great.
What happens if we train them and they leave? And that's a concern a lot of times. Well, you know, my employees don't stay very long. You know, one of the reasons why they may have high turnover is because they're not necessarily investing in the employees by giving them the tools that they need. And so, yes, is there a chance that they're going to leave? Yes, there is. But the flip side is, if we don't train them and they stay, they're going to remain exactly as is.
Right, they're not going to grow.
They're not going to have the skills they need to delight the customer, to show empathy, to go above and beyond, to make that customer feel good. And so if we go back to Rant and Rave, if you've got rant-like employees that are disengaged working in your company and you don't train them and they stay, what does that show? It shows that we don't really value our customers, and we don't hold our employees accountable. And so when we don't hold our employees accountable, the employees like Rave that are doing the right thing and really care, they start to look at their coworker and say, gee, look at her, she's not doing what she's supposed to do. Nothing's happening.
Right.
I might as well not do it either. And
Exactly.
then you're going to have more rants than you had before. So train them and don't worry about if they're going to leave.
Right, right. I read an article recently, and Dan McCullough of DIN, it's a conversion optimization SEO kind of a company, and he wants to change the premise. The golden rule that we all know is to treat others the way we want to be treated. And Dan is canvassing and rallying for the platinum rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated. And I think that's a really good mantra. I really do. And just a quote from Bill Gates, your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. I mean, how can you not like that quote? We're almost out of time, but we're going to ask Randi a question from Twitter. And the question begins, how long should training last? And then, when does your new hire need a refresher?
Okay. So first part, how long should training last? Training is not a one-time event. Training is ongoing, and I think it's important to reinforce whatever training that you do periodically, whether it's weekly or monthly, with your staff. Pick a topic, whether it's expressing empathy, thinking like an owner, telephone etiquette, and constantly reinforce the skills that you taught them, because we tend to forget, we tend to get complacent. So training needs to be ongoing. And as far as new hire training, I think that after you get the initial onboarding, you really want to train them every 3 to 6 months,
Right.
because there's always something new, and I love to use situations that have happened and use those for training points.
I totally agree with that, because there is that learning curve. And then it's like at the 6-month mark, the employee goes like, where did they get that from? Where did they learn that? Why did they forget all the basics? So we are at the end of our show, and I just would like to give some information about Randi, where you can reach her. Again, she's president of Workforce Development Group, and you can reach her at Randi, that's R-A-N-D-I, at workdevgroup.com. But the best thing too is to do a direct message to at Randi Busse, R-A-N-D-I-B-U-S-S-E. And for myself, you could certainly Twitter me at Laura Sikorski. I cannot say how great this show was. I really appreciated your taking the time.
Thanks, Laura.
Next week, our guest is Vic Rajan, and he's co-founder of Phone Blogger. And interesting, he wants to talk about blogging, social media, and email marketing. And he said he wants to use me and Sikorski's Thinkabouts as a test case, because I'm not a very good blogger yet. So he wants to help me out. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for viewing. We really appreciated your taking the time to click in. And until next week, have a great rest of the week. And thanks for watching.